I mentioned the multiple target platforms. This is what they are. So you can do the traditional Windows application. You can build to Mac OS 10 and iOS. That requires additional hardware. You need to have a Mac that you can build to, and you need to be a member of the Apple Developer Program or iOS Developer Program. With the additional modules that you can purchase for Studio or from Studio Professional, you can build to iOS, Android, Windows 8, Windows 8 Phone, Ubuntu Linux, and I don't really know a whole lot about building to those target platforms. I've mostly been doing HTML5 in Windows, but it does have those capabilities. And you can actually release your games now through the Apple App Store, Google Play, Amazon's App Store, Windows 8 App Store, Steam, Facebook, and you can do your own hosted website, and you can either make your games available for download, or you can build to an HTML5 game and run it in an HTML5 browser right off your website. For the remainder of the time here, I'm going to just talk about and show a little bit of the GameMaker IDE. Thanks, Sam. Sam just turned off the heater. So GameMaker is not object-oriented per se, but it is object-based. The objects are kind of like the core of your game project, and we'll talk about those more. The major type of resources that you can use to build in just about every game, you're going to have sprites. Those are your graphics, objects, which are your code representation of real game objects, or might be abstract behind-the-scenes objects. Rooms, which are the virtual space in which the game takes place, and sounds, which are your sound effects, your background music, and scripts, which is your code. There's other kinds of resources that make up your project, such as backgrounds, background images that are displayed in the rooms, paths for motion planning, fonts for displaying text, timelines for scripted, time-based sequences of events. You can include other files, like resource files of various types, and it is extensible, so you can write your own GameMaker extensions. You can even write them in GML, or you can develop your own DLLs and import them to do stuff that is maybe heavier computation, or just frequently reused code that you want to not have to rewrite every time you make a new project. You can package it as an extension and then just plug it into your game, and the features that you build are right there. So the rest of the talk, I'm just going to talk about GameMaker in GameMaker. So we launch it. Actually, we're going to launch the new version now. Don't seem to have Studio available through this user profile for some reason, but you have the old version 8, which has most of the capabilities that I was going to talk about anyway. So rather than switch profiles, we'll just continue from here. So this is the IDE. When you launch the game, or when you launch the program, you get a little news alert that tells you what's available, if there's any new updates, what they are, and so forth. We'll just close that, but it's nice to know about. You can see here, one of the nice things about GameMaker as a teaching tool is it includes a lot of built-in projects, which are for tutorials. And so you can open those up and see a pre-built game, or you can build yourself according to instructions, and it kind of guides you through the process of building your first game, which makes it very easy to learn. Over on the left-hand side of the window, we have our game resources. They're all organized in a little tree. You've got sprites, sounds, and so on. The very bare minimum that you need in order to make a game that runs is a room, so let's make a room. And then just to show you that that's the bare minimum, I'm going to actually run it. And this is how easy it is. You can just build things very quickly this way. So as you see, it's just an empty room. It doesn't have anything in it, so it's not a very good game, but it's a very bare minimum project. It's kind of like your own world, and it's as easy as it is. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. So let's create a sprite. I'm going to just make a real simple graphic. You can import images that you create in an image editor, whatever your favorite is, if you like Photoshop or MS Paint or Paint.net, whatever. But GameMaker does include a reasonably decent image editor that's built in. You can use, which I'm using right now. And I am not going to get too fancy here. I'm just going to make a red square. And it'll be our sprite. Now, you can have multiple images in your sprite to do animation with. I'm not really going to cover that, but you can have as many animation cells as you want to. If you want, you can modify the collision mask. This is how GameMaker knows when your sprite is in collision with another object. You can change the size of that. Right now it's just automatically detecting the size of the squares full like that. You can select full image, which is essentially the same thing, or I can manually set it to be just half of it, or quarter of it, or whatever. I can just set the boundaries from there. I can set the shape and size from either a precise. If I had like a precise shape, it would conform to the exact shape of the drawing. Where I can just do a rectangle, which suits pretty well in this case. So that's a sprite. Not going to bother with sounds because I don't have speakers plugged in, so you wouldn't probably be able to hear them anyway. But I will create an object, and we'll assign a sprite to the object, the one that we just created. And then we'll talk about the object editor. So the object editor has a bunch of things in it on the left side. These are the properties of the sprite, or the properties of the object. It has a checkbox to determine if this is a visible or an invisible object. You can have you can check this box to make it solid or not solid. And generally, you just want to leave it as it is. Depth controls the depth at which it is layered when two objects are drawn on top of each other, which one gets to be on top. Persistent will keep the object alive even after the room that it's in is closed or exited. The object will persist and appear in the next room. There's an inheritance model, so you can select a parent object, and since we only have one object, we can't select a parent right now. But parenting is very useful to get properties in your parents to inherit to the children objects. So objects use a event-driven model to do their behaviors. So you can, right now this object doesn't do anything, but I can throw it into a room. So I'll go into the room editor and just pop it in there. And if I run it, you'll just see a little red square that just sits there and does nothing. It's a little bit slower. So yeah, the object's in there. And if we want the object to do something, we can give it events. There's a whole bunch of built-in events that you can learn about. For this guy, let's just say when it's created, we'll create a create event. Over on the right-hand side here, we have what are called actions. On the far right, we have a library of different types of actions, which are drag and drop. And so without knowing any coding at all, you can just grab one of these actions, drag it over, and we'll say that this is the action for movement. When the object is created, it will move in a random direction at the speed that we give it. This will be a speed in pixels per step. So now, when we run the game, we'll see a moving red square. Maybe not. What did I do wrong? Oh, you have to select these things. I thought they were pre-selected to do all these things. So it's going to pick a random direction out of the up, down, left, right diagonal, and it'll move in that direction at a speed of 12. Like so. And then it just disappears off the edge of the screen. It's now outside the room, so it's not being displayed. Outside the room, objects still persist and do whatever they do, but you can't see them. So if you have a lot of objects like bullets or something like that flying everywhere, you want to do something with them when they leave the room. Otherwise, you'll have memory leaks and they'll accumulate and you'll bog down your performance. So, let's do that. We can have an object with an event for outside room. And just destroy itself when it leaves the room. Now that's kind of, you're not going to see any real difference between what we just did and what I added to it now, because when it's outside the room it's destroyed, you don't see it anyway. But in terms of the game, it's a little bit cleaner because it's no longer taking up resources and doing stuff. Well, let's give it something more to do. When it gets destroyed, let's have it spawn a new object. And we'll do this at a random position in the room. Actually, let's do it in the middle of the room. So, GameMaker has a built-in variable called room width and room height. We'll put it right in the middle. And we'll run it. And so what this will do is every time it leaves the room, it'll be destroyed. The destroy action will cause a new object to be created right in the middle of the room. And it will do its create events and move in a different direction, as you see. So it's not much of a game, but you can see how easy it is to build and create things in just a few seconds. Now, if we wanted to control this thing, we might want to make a new object and control this one. I'll create a new sprite real quick. Let's make this a blue square. Assign the blue square to the sprite. Is that blue or black? I guess it is. And we'll create some events for this guy so that we can control it. When we are pressing the key, or actually let's say when we're holding the keyboard key left down, we'll make it move left. And this is 12. We'll add another keyboard event for the right arrow key. Down. And let's do something when the two objects collide with each other. Let's give a collision event so we can show what that does. So when this object collides with the red square, we'll say that it destroys the red square. So we'll put a destroy, and this time we're going to apply the destroy action to the other object. this is the other object in the collision, the red object. And let's go back to our room and throw our new guy in there and run it. And we should be able to control it with the arrow keys, and we should be able to crash into the red guy if we can catch up with it and destroy it before it leaves the room. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, but if I'm lucky, I might be able to see. It's a little bit too random to play this as a real game. But if I hang out by the middle, I can see. I got him. I'm learning how to do this better. If I just hang out by the middle, where I know he's going to appear again, I can keep getting him. And maybe, at that point, I would do something like give myself points, or maybe a power up or something like that. So just in, what was that, maybe 5-10 minutes, I built a couple of key features for a very simple game. I can keep going on and on if I wanted to, but I figure we're already at 3:30, so I should let Jared take over, and he'll talk to us about Construct 2. I'll hang out here for the remainder and watch the next couple presentations, so if anyone wants to talk to me, see more about the capabilities, feel free. Thanks.